You are listening to the Cookbook Love podcast with Maggie Green, episode number 354.
Welcome to the Cookbook Love podcast, a podcast that celebrates cookbook readers, buyers, collectors, writers, and clubs. And now your host, cookbook author, culinary dietitian, and cookbook writing coach, Maggie Green.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Cookbook Love podcast. How's everybody doing today? As always, hope you're doing well. I am here in my cookbook bunker, and I did have an interview that I thought was going to be scheduled today, but this week on Wednesday, we had to have our sweet, long-haired black kitty cat Virgil put to sleep. I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast before, but maybe I've talked about him or he has interrupted some interviews, but we had him for about 6 years, adopted him from an animal shelter in January of 2019. He was a young adult cat then. They're guessing maybe he was 2 years old. So we had him for about 6 years, which means he was maybe a 7 or 8 year old cat. But back in December, he started coughing. And with a round of antibiotics and a steroid shot, he improved until, I guess it was in March, he started coughing again. And they gave him more antibiotics, but then they decided that they might want to check and look in his mouth to see if there's anything that's irritating his throat. The doctor could visually see something when they opened his mouth to look in, but we took him back. They put him to sleep. They thought if it was a polyp, they could just snip it out. Well, it ended up being a invasive squamous cell cancer that cats get. It was up on the left side of his soft palate toward the roof of his mouth, and suspect that it could have started in his teeth or the gums, because it's kind of interesting, but a couple years ago, he had to have his back teeth extracted. And the cancer sometimes starts that way and then just continues to grow. So anyway, diagnosed with squamous cell cancer beginning of April, and the doctor said it was pretty fast growing and there would be a cure, maybe if we did chemo or radiation, but we elected not to do that and just kept him on medication, oral medication, and then occasionally antibiotics. He got to the point, though, where he didn't want to eat because I'm guessing of the pain in his mouth. So we would get him a steroid shot and he would rebound, do a little bit better, but everything just slowly started kind of declining for him. He quit doing a lot of the things that he enjoyed doing, and he would position himself so that he could breathe and also so that he could just, I guess, deal with the pain. They say cats are kind of stoic. So sadly, we decided after a really bad night this past Tuesday of him being very restless and some actual bleeding from his mouth that we needed to have him put to sleep on Wednesday. And for those of you that are listening that are pet owners, dogs or cats, you understand what it's like to have a pet that's part of the family. And we have always had a cat or a dog. And then, of course, when my kids were younger, I thought having a family pet in the house I always said it kind of like softened the edges of our home. And the interesting thing about Virgil, though, is that our youngest son graduated from college last year, and he's moved away, lives in Chicago now. But the cat always was like still a connection to the time in our life when we had children here and, caring for something. And he's gone now. And so it has been, to say the least, an adjustment. I'm back in my life to where I was when Warren and I first moved to Kentucky. Before we had children, we adopted a cat, but I was working full time and we had the cat at home. But now I run my business, I record this podcast, I write cookbooks, I coach cookbook writers. So I spend a lot of time here in my cookbook bunker and in my kitchen, and the house is very empty. Solitude is a wonderful thing, and quiet time is a wonderful thing. But I do think it's going to be an adjustment not to have Virgil around. So Rest in peace, Virgil Green. You're a beautiful cat, and miss you a lot. Okay, so today I want to let you all know that the registration is open for Cookbook Camp. I'm excited to talk about Cookbook Camp, tell you a little bit about what it is, and tell you why I decided to make an offer to have something like Cookbook Camp as a 6-week experience for anyone who wants to write a cookbook, mainly because of the rhythm of the seasons and because of summer. So that's why this podcast episode is called Cookbook Writing in the Rhythm of Summer. So the doors for Cookbook Camp are open, but I want to tell you a little bit about the seasonal writing approach that I know has been a part of my life, and it really just occurred to me last week as I was thinking more about it. But the other thing I was thinking about is I've coached hundreds of cookbook writers. I've been consistently emailing with cookbook writers. I've been coaching cookbook writers privately and in groups for 10 years. And as a cookbook writer myself, I have noticed that the way we write, the way that people even purchase programs, the way that people interact with online courses changes seasonally. So without a doubt, January and September are power months for you guys, and probably for me too, as a writer and a mother and a teacher and a coach. There's something about the clean slate of a new year, either a calendar new year or a school new year, that it makes it very easy for us to say yes to something new. The urgency feels good for a while, and so everybody's all in January and September. And it's true for other things other than writing, resolutions that we make, people are all in. But as you know, the urgency does not last. And the pressure that you might feel to do something new in a new year, or do something when the kids go back to school, or when school starts before the holidays come and before the year is over, because you haven't done anything leading up to that time, that pressure wears out. And cookbook writing at its best is not built on pressure, because that leads to burnout. Whenever we're operating from an internal motivation of pressure, we don't get the results that we want in our life, because the way we feel emotionally about whatever we are doing drives the actions that we take. And pressure may lead us to do things temporarily, but it's not the type of emotion that drives a project for the long game. So today I want to talk about another way, a way that writing actually moves with the seasons. And of course, for this example, we're going to talk about summer, because summer starts at the end of this week. We have more daylight, we have warmth, we have more time to reflect and to savor and to create. And it's not that we really have more time, but I think the daylight and the warmth plays tricks on our brain, because we think the days are longer because of the daylight. So if you're in the Southern Hemisphere and it's currently wintertime for you, I want you to imagine what it feels like during the summer, which is when it's winter for us, but it just feels different. So summer, because of our vacations, because of our warmth, because of the way that we think about summer, we don't typically push ourselves to do anything new. We kind of lay back, we relax, we spend more time outdoors, maybe on our patio or at the pool or at the lake or at the beach. We schedule vacations. If you have school-age children, they're around. And it's a little bit more of a laissez-faire attitude about summertime. But that's what I decided I wanted to build Cookbook Camp for, was the feeling that we have about the summertime. Daylight, warmth, being outdoors, and exposure. Like you might wear a short sleeve shirt instead of a long sleeve shirt. You might wear shorts or a skirt instead of jeans or pants, but exposing our skin to the warmth and to the light. So this is what I've built with Cookbook Camp, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it because I wanted to have an experience for people who are writing cookbooks, whether they are sitting by the pool with a notebook, cooking with the windows open, letting you truly explore how this season can support your most nourishing work yet for your cookbook project. So I do want to say something else about this. If you haven't really started your cookbook project yet, or you've just been thinking about it, I want you to know that you're not behind and it's not too late and you haven't missed the moment. You're exactly where you need to be, and that summer is actually a very rich and perfect time to embrace the energy of the season, to help your book take root before the fall comes. I mentioned this last week, but in September, I'll open the doors for Cookbooks on KDP, which is my program where I help cookbook authors publish their recipes and stories in a book on Amazon. But there needs to be some work that's done prior to joining that program. And summertime is the perfect time to do that. So there's 3 things I want you to think about when it comes to summertime and how you can embrace this season to become the cookbook writer that you want to be. And number 1, I kind of mentioned this a few minutes ago, but it's the daylight. Don't the days feel longer? We have this joke in our family. We have a group text chain with me and my siblings. There's 8 of us all together, and several of the brother-in-laws are in there too. And every time the time changes, we text and say the days are getting longer or the days are getting shorter. And then my brother chimes in and says, no, they're not. They're always 24 hours. But it feels longer during the summer. Even if the hours haven't changed, there's something about the way the light lingers in the evening that makes it just feel like time is more expansive. Also, the way it gets lighter earlier in the morning, it makes the day seem longer. And because of the evenings and the warm weather, we often slow down. If the kids are home from school, we don't have the pressure of the school schedule. If we have an abbreviated work week, because it's summer with the job that we have. I know many people might have a half day off on Friday or be able to take Fridays off during the summer. In the publishing industry, when I worked with Joy of Cooking, it was very common that Fridays were a day that people had probably half days. They would leave to go to the beach. They'd go to their house in the country for the weekend. There's just something about this slowing down attitude. And we can breathe deeper. We can go outside. We can walk more. And with that stretch of light, we often notice that there's also what I want you to notice. This creates space in our mind to create something new, to be intentional about our summer. And why not use this extra space and mindset to actually write and to begin our cookbook projects? The next thing is the warmth. Our bodies love to be warm. We can relax. We're more open, but it's more likely to say what we mean, and we are more likely to let ourselves be seen. When you think about, like I mentioned, even the clothes we wear in the summer, we're exposing more of ourselves. And I want you to think about exposure in terms of our willingness to let other people see into the lives that we are living. I expose things about myself here to you on the podcast all the time, talking about things that have happened in my life, because I'm not just a talking head coming to you over the airwaves. I'm a person with a real life, and letting you know about the joys and struggles in my life makes me more real. It makes me feel more real, and it shares part of my life with you. And writers need to be willing to expose themselves to other people on the page and not worry about that. Even though the fear of rejection and fear of disconnection is very strong in our psyche, because the deepest thing that we all desire is connection and acceptance and love. And when we put our words on the page, we fear other people's responses. We fear rejection, and we don't want to expose ourselves. We want to hide. But let's use summer and the warmth of summer to think about revealing, exposing, letting people into our lives through the work that we do and through the writing that we do. Just peel back a few layers and let people see what's really going on. Tell them what's true. This morning when I wrote my email to my list, I said I didn't really feel particularly inspired. So I just mentioned that I had been out on a walk. I took some time to water my flowers, and I deadhead the annuals. And I had these great little pruning snips that have a very narrow head. They're small, but they're great for deadheading annuals because often the annuals are kind of packed in a window box or packed in a pot on the patio, and you can reach down in there and snip it off. They're handheld. They're good for the size of, put them in a pocket or carry them with me easily as I'm walking around the patio. And then I talked about my morning milkshake today and what I put in that. And I said that, sometimes when we're not inspired to write, we just sit down and write and put the attention on somebody else for a change. Don't think about that I don't want to write. I don't feel like doing this. Let's turn that around and think, what can I say today to connect with people? And that might offer them a little bit of fun or inspiration or a tip. And that's really the way that I think writing becomes inspirational, is by showing up for it and doing it and not waiting to be inspired before I write. Okay, and then number 3 is time outdoors, whether it's the patio or the pool or the lake or the beach, walking in your neighborhood, going to a park. There's something about being outside that stretches time. And I think if we can do it with people or solo and maybe try to have some quiet time, not have earbuds in, just like some thinking time, it invites reflection. And this allows us to really think about things, grab a paper and pen. Ideas might start to flow, scribbling down memories about your grandmother's pies that she made, her pie crust, marinade that you made last night, really thinking about food and reconnecting to yourself and your food and your thoughts about food during this time that you are outside. So with notebooks and warm breezes and screen doors and the smell of cooking or grilling, jotting down stories, capturing memories, turning your everyday meals into something lasting, I think that this summertime feeling for me is very grounding. It's very present. And maybe for some of you, you might feel like perhaps this might be a summer when you can actually come alive creatively. And that's exactly why I'm offering Cookbook Camp. This Cookbook Camp is built for summer, for the longer light, the warmer season, maybe warmer hearts and quiet moments that we can spend turning into creative energy for our cookbooks. So inside Cookbook Camp, I'm going to walk you through each week a powerful encounter that is created for the type of writing and reflection that you need to write a cookbook. These encounters are going to help meet you right where you are and carry you forward into something that will last as you build your legacy, which is what a cookbook is. So that's the foundation of Cookbook Camp, are these encounters. There's 6 of them. And then we're also going to spend some time together at live campfire coaching sessions. We're going to have some fun activities, a kitchen scavenger hunt. We're going to write some postcards, everything with a very summertime Cookbook Camp feel. So the registration is currently open. It closes on Saturday, June 21st on the summer solstice. We begin next week with our first video for the first encounter that we're going to have. And then we have a live call also next week for a cookbook campfire session on Wednesday, June the 25th. So if you are interested in joining us inside Cookbook Camp, you can read all about it at www.cookbookwritersacademy.com/camp. And the link is below in the show notes. And I can't wait to have you come join us inside Cookbook Camp to really be intentional and embrace the beauty of this summer season. So that if you are interested in publishing a book on Amazon or extending that perhaps to a traditional publishing contract through writing a cookbook proposal, we can do that this fall when September rolls around. But for summer, let's have some fun and enjoy Cookbook Camp together beginning on Monday, June 23rd. So that is it for today's Summertime Feel episode of the Cookbook Love Podcast. This is your host, Maggie Green. And until next time, have a great day and keep loving your cookbooks.
Thanks for listening to the Cookbook Love Podcast. You can find out more information at www.cookbooklove.co.